Welcome to Supporting Your Student Through the Fall Semester. This is the first of a series of sessions specific to families that we will be offering this year. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sana Nelson, and I am a staff at RISD working on alumni and family relations. I would like to share a few housekeeping rules. This event is being recorded. And we will be sharing the recording with invitees and posting it on the family's website. If you do not want to be part of the recording, please remain video off and muted. You may use the chat feature for your questions. Just to give you a quick overview, we have families from all over the US and even from abroad joining us on this event. Welcome. We're very excited to have you. A large number of families who have registered for the event are families of first-year students and sophomore students, but we do have families as well of juniors and seniors. And we're excited to be able to offer this opportunity through this event that is being hosted as a Zoom meeting instead of a webinar for families to connect with one another. Indeed, I'd like to invite you to use the chat function to introduce yourself by sharing your name, where you are from in the US or abroad, and also what your students' year and major are. This will allow you to connect with other parents who are close by or who have similar interests, with students who have similar interests. We will have a number of speakers present dining, housing, health services, and academic support that's available. And then we will open the floor to the questions and answer period. So feel free to post your questions anytime in the chat. And we will either read them aloud or we will invite you to present them yourselves. I would like you, please, before you type your question, do type question for the panelists so that we're able to easily visualize the questions and make sure we don't miss them when we start referring to questions. You can also use the Zoom chat or raise your hand to request to ask the question yourself if you would like. And we will be posting links as well in the chat box. For example, when speakers are talking, we will be putting their bios in the chat for your reference. And now I would like to introduce Shefali Kushalani, who is the Family Association Leadership Council Chair and the parent of an adaptive reuse and interior studies student. Welcome, Shefali. So good to have you on.
Thank you, Sana. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where everybody is. I'm joining you here from India at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I'm happy to offer you a warm welcome to our family webinar series for the academic year. My name is Shefali Kushlani. My daughter Vedika is studying adaptive reuse and interior studies and will be graduating in the year 2022. I have the privilege of chairing the Family Association Leadership Council, also called FALC. The Family Association Leadership Council is composed of families who seek to enhance educational experience of all students through their philanthropic support, volunteer effort, and engagement with RISD leaders. Members participate in efforts to inspire other RISD families to engage with the college. The fall semester is an exciting time in RISD. However, as your student navigates their unique RISD experience, we understand that you may have questions. To help, the Offices of Student Affairs and Alumni, as well as the Family Relations, have convened a panel of campus experts to offer you an inside look at RISD and to answer your questions on the many ways they and you can support your student during the time on campus. I'm happy to introduce you to RISD's executive, Chef David Gold, who will discuss dining options, Director of Residence Life, Kevin Forty, will then talk about residential life and support services available to the students. Bob Samuels, Executive Director of Integrated Health and Wellness, will share more about how students are supposed to help the wellness team. And here we get started with the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Shafali. My name is David Gould. I'm the executive chef for RISD Dining and for RISD Caterers here on campus. My office is located right in the Met, which is at 30 Waterman Street. My door is always open. So please encourage your students and hopefully you all at some point to come on in, and we'd love to talk to you. Next slide, please. These are some pictures of the Met specifically from the last year, which has been challenging for everybody. Of course, the dining team as well. We have completed renovations in both of our main kitchens on campus, and these are just some pictures for you to see some of the new developments this is in the Met specifically. Next slide, please. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on in these slides was really thinking about, or to explain to you all about how we come up with our menus and what drives us in building recipes and our offerings for students. And I think that one of the greatest opportunities, certainly for me working here, but also for you being a part of the RISD communities, is to understand that we're a small department and we're self-operated, and so we're here for the student experience ultimately. And on a personal level, myself and my team, we are chefs. We're trained, classically trained chefs and hospitality professionals with experience in everything from hotels and fine dining restaurants, catering, of course, college dining, and sort of everything in between. But ultimately, on the most empirical level for us, we love delicious food and exceptional service, and that's a passion for us. We build menus that speak to our department's core values as educators and speak to our passion for food and incrementality as professionals. Our menus showcase ingredients sourced from New England in recipes that represent RISD's diverse student body. And so this is really part of my spiel. I mean, I think that for me as a chef, one of the most exciting and engaging things for me and also my staff is to really is to look at our student body and also where they're from and use that as a lens by which that we build these menus. Trying to do that through ingredients that are available and in season and that we can source through our farm context in New England. These are just some pictures of dishes that we've done in the last year. You'll see many of them are in to-go containers, which is a testament to the times of COVID, I suppose. These are from mostly from last spring, but then I guess 2 unreal plates. But and then on the top right is that it's actually an Instagram post that I copied, but it's a map of New England, and all those little, I'm sorry it's so small, but those green boxes are names of farms, and that's those are all within 100 miles of RISD. Next slide, please. Our core values are relationships, ingredients, sustainability, and design. And I hate to say it, but we really have drank the Kool-Aid in that sense. It's really about something that we live and we breathe and we talk about it all the time here. We represent hubs on campus where the community can meet, entertain, relax, work, socialize, and eat exceptional food. We write menus that are inspired by the seasons of New England to showcase locally sourced produce and the cultures and cuisines of our student body. We're committed to products and practices that have minimal environmental impact and fuel the long-term sustainability of our communities. Our our philosophy is one of thoughtful design. Every element in our program's design is a piece of the puzzle that contributes to the community's dining experience. And within this, it really, this is what we use in all of our decision making. This is, as a small department, there's only a few of us on the leadership team, and we are really the decision makers. And all of those decisions are based within these core values and our mission. And in addition to that, we really pride ourselves, or I guess we've sort of termed ourselves as an ingredients-based department, because ultimately the most important thing for us is to make sure that we're fueling our student body with ingredients that are nourishing and healthy, and of course also delicious and beautiful, but also that we give students what they want to eat. And so in writing menus, for me, there's two goals, or two of many, I guess. One is to give students a taste of home. We see that this is the first time for a lot of students that they've been to Providence. It's the first time for a lot of students that they've been this far away from home, into this country, away from their home country, wherever they're from. And of course, people get homesick. And so it's really our role to, we're thrilled to take advantage of the opportunity to give students a taste of where they're from, in an effort to really try and give them some comfort. And the other really exciting thing that we do, and then I work with my staff on, is teaching students something new about somebody else's culture or the cuisines from where they're from. Selfishly, it's a great way for us to stay innovative and keep things interesting and changing. We are developing recipes on a daily basis based off of feedback that we get from students and their families, but also feedback that we get from the community, people across campus, my staff. Hey, I was in New York last weekend and I tried this at this restaurant. It was amazing. And I think that we should try it because I think that, it'd be fun to make and students would love it. And that's sort of the process. And it's just this sort of ever evolving process that's really fun for us. And I think that it's something that students ultimately appreciate, because while we do have things like menu cycles, things are always changing, and we try to get better every day. Next slide, please. One of the other advantages for us as a small department is that we're really able to work directly with students on a personal level for everything, but also, of course, for students that are looking for services related to special diets, food allergies, religious observance, specific diets around religious observance, isolation and quarantine meals, which is a testament to the times. Maureen is our menu management specialist, excuse me. But we really also look to her. Part of her role is to really be a student's advocate. She really is sort of the conduit between students and the department. And it's a real opportunity for students to, of course, get to know someone, a friendly face. Maureen's office is right next to mine in the Met, but also to field all those concerns around really scary things like allergies, special diets, isolation, things that people don't necessarily always want to talk about, but that really can dictate a lot of their experience at RISD. And so I work very closely with Maureen on a daily basis. She handles all of our nutritional information, all of our allergen managements. We use a menu management system that houses all of our recipes. We use it for inventory, for purchasing. So she's here for, certainly for my team, but also more importantly for yours. Her contact information is right there on that slide. She also works with students putting together special accommodations that if they need them for any of those issues. So we do everything from ordering meals on a weekly pre-order form for some students because that works better for them. We do a pre-order form for the day before if students are too busy and don't have the time to worry about the whole week. We give them options that they can come into the Met and order on demand for customized dishes. But ultimately, we'll work out a plan that works for the student, whatever that is. And I think that, the difficult thing, students are so busy and so stressed at RISD, understandably, that really for us in dining, we want to be a place where students can feel comfortable and relax and do whatever it is that they want to do that they can't necessarily do all day in studio or in class. And so having to worry about what you're going to eat is something that we don't want students to have to deal with. And so the most important thing for us is that everyone has equal options and variety, regardless of whatever their eating habits or special diets are. And that's a goal for us and something that we work towards on a daily basis. Next slide, please. Sana wanted me to mention holidays and how we handle holiday meal service. And this is very broad, but ultimately how we serve meals during holidays really depends on the academic calendar. It depends on if students are on campus. Most of the holidays we're open and serving, of course, specifically on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, because we have such a small number of students on campus, it is one of the very few holidays where we'll close up a venue. And so this year we have Portfolio open, which is our venue in 15 West. They can pick up a Thanksgiving themed menu at dinner on Wednesday or on Thursday. And then you'll see a sample menu to the right, which is featuring produce and ingredients that we source from farms within New England. And we're very proud of that. I think is that the last slide for me? Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me and us. And I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your questions. And if I'll be checking out the chat if there's questions later, please feel free to ask away. And also, I look forward to meeting you all hopefully soon in person. Thank you again.
Thank you, Chef David. I'm Kevin Forty. I'm the Director of Residence Life, and I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. Thank you for joining us and talking a little bit about Res Life. I haven't had dinner yet, and David always makes me hungry. One of the best parts of my job is that I work really close to the Met, so I get to eat there a lot, and it's the best. Let's talk about housing. Next slide, please. So the first thing to understand about RISD housing is just how wide and broad and transformative it is. And so for many of you, your students are currently living in one of our multiple stages of housing. Our first year students are housed within our first year quad, within East, Homer, Nickerson, or North Halls. And then our sophomore area where our students kind of transition into includes our historic hill houses, South Hall, and the alcove suites within 15 West. And so those are areas that are really designed around building community as students move into that second year and being a little bit more independent, but not fully all the way there. For students who really want to have a more independent experience, our upper class housing within the apartments of 15 West, Colonial and Dwight is geared towards more of that independent living. As students transition through first year and sophomore and upper class housing, their meal plan alignments change. So a student living in upper class housing has a little bit of a smaller meal plan to allow for some independent cooking, although they still have those meals to get while they're in studio, long hours, things like that. So we're really thinking about supporting a student all the way through and recognizing that the needs of a first year student are very different than the needs of a senior. And so we try to cater and tailor our housing to meet that. Next slide, please. As we think about moving into selection for next year, this is where students hopefully get excited, sometimes get a little bit nervous about what does the next year look like for me in terms of housing. And that will change, of course, depending on where a student is. And so for first year students, their selection process, they're going to have priority selection for sophomore housing. And they can do that in a number of different ways. We basically have as you see, kind of 4 real key types of housing selection. Time slot is the most common. It's similar to how incoming students have selected their rooms, as well as students in the past. It's a randomly generated number by class year. It's basically a time. And if you're in a group of multiple students, the person with the best time within that group is the one who gets to pick. So if I'm in a group of 3 people and I'm looking for a triple and I have the 8 a.m. slot, my friends have 10 and 11 a.m., we get to go together at 8 a.m. Another way that students sometimes select housing is what we call a housing placement request. And that's pretty simple. It's kind of like, I want housing, but I don't care really where it is. Students will do that for a couple different reasons. One is they may not have a group of students or a real preference, but maybe they want to be placed in an apartment and they don't have that group formatted. Or they're a junior and a senior and they're weighing their off-campus options. And they're thinking, you know what, I might find off-campus housing, but if I don't, I'd really like to have a place on campus. The housing placement request allows for students to be placed over the summer. And if they decline that placement when we offer it, there's no penalty. So they're not losing a deposit by selecting a room and then deciding, oh, I'm moving off campus and now it's going to cost me or it's going to cost you, $1,000 or whatever that deposit number is, that increases over time. Another way that students are placed into housing is through medical accommodations. And so all medical accommodation requests go through a committee process and they require pretty stringent physician notes and really clear kind of guidelines. But for students who need a specific accommodation that way, those are placed in a priority fashion as well. And then another way that students in their junior or senior year can select their same room for next year is what we call the senior year room hold. And that is basically for, as I said, juniors or seniors, seniors who would be going into their 5th year or perhaps into a grad type role. Those students who, if they are living in upper class housing, so within 15 West apartments or lofts, Colonial or Dwight, and they say, you know what, I really like this room. I'd like to come back here for the fall. They can just say, yep, I'll take it. And as long as they have folks to fill the rest of the room around them, it's theirs. So it's a nice benefit for our upper class students. Next slide, please. So within our residence halls, and within our residential community, we have a number of different support systems in place. That starts with the professional staff who are community coordinators who live within the residence halls. We have a team of upper class undergraduate or graduate level resident advisors who live on the floors with the students and provide direct support. We also have a team of advocates for inclusion in residence who are students who are focused on matters of social equity and inclusion within the residential community and thinking about topics and issues and policies and procedures and how that affects students from all different backgrounds and identities within our residence halls. Examples of some of the support that this team of staff provide include roommate mediations and coaching, resource referrals. So perhaps a student is struggling in a class and you may refer them to academic counseling or maybe over to our friends in counseling and psychological services or health services, for instance. When students are struggling with social adjustment and connections, we can step in and really kind of help them meet some folks, kind of convince them to participate in some of the social activities that we do. Our in-hall and on-campus teams, as well as folks like myself, are part of a 24/7 emergency response rotation. So we always have folks on campus to handle all the different things that come up. That includes our public safety officers, who are EMTs, who address medical incidents, but also our various on-call personnel who are able to respond to things that go bump in the night. We do a number of different student check-ins throughout the semester and often on a pretty regular basis. So if you pick up the phone, call myself or one of my colleagues and say, I'm concerned about a student, I'm going to get together and I'm going to actually reach out to that student and say, hey, what's going on? We heard, that this is a concern or this is a situation that may be going on. How can we be of help? Sometimes those requests for support come in a more anonymous manner, and that is something that we dance around a little bit, but there's usually a way that we can get to a student and say, hey, somebody's concerned about you. How are you doing? What can we do? If a student is in a situation where they've been hospitalized, maybe for an injury related to work they were doing, or maybe they were skateboarding down one of our many hills in Providence and had a little boo-boo, we'll make sure that they get back. We'll check in with them, things like that. And then, of course, any type of community concerns. I'm sure many of you can all talk about an example of when something went wrong in a student's room. Maybe the heat wasn't on, maybe the heat was too high, maybe it was too low, maybe there was a water issue. Any of these different things that come up, we are there to help facilitate with our various support teams, whether it be contractors or our facilities management group. Things like that. We're in the middle of that. And of course, the fun things that we do, like pictured here, are the many different types of community events and socials. We do a lot on Instagram. We do a number of different joint programs with partners from other areas of student affairs and our friends in dining, public safety, et cetera, to just do little pop-up events to kind of give students a little extra fun on a busy evening, just to kind of get a little break from the classroom activities, which can be so encompassing. So next slide, please. A couple of ways that we specifically focus in on two of our really major populations, our first year and sophomore students, all of whom live on campus with us and are required to do so, is through RISD Launch and the sophomore experience. RISD Launch is a first year experience. We focus on a few different pillars. Those are building self-assurance, creating a foundation for academic success, developing fellowship and social connections with other students, evolving as a student themselves, understanding who they are, understanding the differences between their high school and college career and artistic pursuits, and then lastly, engaging with social justice and equity. Students in the sophomore experience focusing on three pillars. We call them engaging, expanding, and envisioning, really engaging with the institution in a new way. Sophomore year is very much, as it says there, like a second first year, because students, after they come out of the foundation studies curriculum, go into their second year and join their major for the first time. And that is a different experience. And in many ways, it is kind of like starting over again. So we're trying to work to engage them into the community, expand their understanding of RISD, expand their artistic understanding of themselves, and expanding their availability of resources and connections and all the many things that are there to support them. And then envisioning where they as a student are going to go. What is their career pursuit going to be? What might their internship after their sophomore or junior year be? How can they get connected with the Career Center? Things like that. So we try to focus in on those in particular. So those are just some of the many ways that we support students, and I too look forward to engaging more in the chat afterwards. It's now my pleasure to introduce Bob Samuels, who's our Executive Director for Integrated Health and Wellness.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Bob Samuels. I'm the Executive Director of Integrated Health and Wellness. We're located at 72 Pine Street. And when I say we, I mean health services, counseling and psychological services, and health education and promotion. We've all been there since 2020, and it's a new model, and we hope to increase our ability to support your students, their well-being, as well as manage minor injuries or other difficulties. Next slide, please. So these are the three components of the integrated health and wellness. Health services, first line of defense for confidential quality health care, whether it's a minor illness, a minor bug, or more serious health concerns. So we will do evaluation and treat minor difficulties, but we will also make referrals to community providers, a network of which has been developed over the years or a local urgent care center if it's something that we don't treat in-house. But the things that we do treat, basic healthcare needs, GYN care, STI screening, PrEP treatment, and then medical referrals as needed. Health education is another component. So health educator as well as peer health and wellness ambassadors plan programming, campus-wide programming, workshops, different events to teach people about their bodies, to teach people about healthy eating. There's a recent event in the Met and really teaching people how to make healthy smoothies and other sorts of activities just are fun, but they teach health and wellness principles. They're also having a program, I think next week, where they're talking about food that can be prepared safely in your room, and just a lot of things like that, so that students start really thinking about their bodies both in health-related ways and not just sort of grinding through the work and making sleep and eating almost secondary. The last section is counseling and psychological services. So short-term confidential counseling, psychiatric service, and all three of these are presented at no cost to the student. So they can come down to 72 Pine Street, actually call. We're doing all of the appointments are first called to make an appointment, and then we will see them as within the counseling services or health services, depending upon their needs. There's been a lot of concern over the last 2 years of COVID, and health services is really taking a lead, working with a testing site, which is in a different location. We've been working with other groups on campus in terms of establishing COVID protocols. We're testing people regularly, and we also have open testing, so people that are concerned can get screened. If there's positives, we do have places on campus where we can isolate students but still have dining support. We will be in contact with the students during that process to keep everybody safe. Fortunately, RISD has done quite well in terms of COVID and COVID positivity, and we continue to do so. The requirements for vaccinations helped out a lot into their community. It's almost 98% vaccinated, and and we're looking forward to sort of going into the spring and really still feeling very safe as a community. This is a time where students are really learning about how to stay healthy and well, and we're really building up the educational programming and really trying to coordinate with other campus departments, so that becomes more clearly integrated into the artistic community and development. And with that, I will pass it off to Student Affairs and Brittany.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Goodwin. I am the Student Success Project Manager in the Dean's Office and Student Affairs Department. There's a lot we haven't talked about tonight, and I think a lot of you are probably thinking of all of the things that could possibly come up with your young artist that we haven't talked about or we haven't shared a resource for. And so I am that resource. I am the place, sorry about my cat, the place where students go when they don't know exactly where to go. I am a holistic advisor. I help students with academic coaching if they need some practice breaking down assignments and understanding how to kind of manage their time, if they need some support with just kind of working through the red tape of different processes and policies on campus, if they need to be referred or connected, if they have questions about how to communicate something to faculty, and the list goes on and on and on. Really, truly, if a student brings something up to you and you're not sure where to send them, I'm always a good place to start. Navigating policies and processes is really a big part of what I'm helping students with, help walk through decisions that they might be struggling with and what are the consequences of the various choices that they might make within those decisions is a big part of what I'm doing in my advising as well. Generally, students are complex. There's a lot more going on than just the one thing that's showing up. So they might be struggling in a class specifically, but 9 times out of 10, it's not just academic. And so that's really why my role was created, to approach those things in a very holistic way. Tonight, my role in the Q&A is really to answer a lot of the questions about student affairs in general, or questions that don't necessarily fall in the bucket of residence life or dining or health services. So I will take a stab the best I can at questions that you have that fit that category. And I believe I'm the last speaker.
Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, David. Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Kevin, for some great presentations to give us a good sense of what the RISD environment is for all our RISD students. I would like to now invite people to unmute themselves for the Q&A if they would like to ask questions directly. And you can also create a reaction so that we know that you want to ask a question, and we will give you the floor. In the meantime, maybe I will start with a few questions that we received ahead of time. So if our speakers are ready, I will start with Brittany. One question we got early was, what are some resources available to my son as he struggles to manage his time?
So I talked a little bit. I am certainly one of those resources and always willing to help students kind of figure out how to keep balance, how to schedule long-term assignments, break things down, all of those things. Disabilities Support Services also offers weekly walk-in time management workshops. Those are available to all students. And then for our students who do have diagnosed documented disabilities, they offer even additional support, one-on-one support for those students to kind of work through time management in a way that's specific to their diagnosis and disability.
Thank you, Brittany. Another question I had also that was sent ahead of time was, again for Brittany, would you please share some ways my daughter can make social connections with peers? That could be also a question that, Kevin, you might want to address as well, I think. It would be interesting to have both sides.
Yeah, I'll let Kevin talk about the residence life pieces, but we do send out a regular newsletter to students called Word Out that kind of enlists all of the things that are happening on campus, whether it's events planned by faculty, guest speakers being brought in, events planned through student affairs, kind of across the board. Those are all listed in Word Out for students. So that's something they get in their email. We do also have what's the number? I had to write it down. 63 student clubs and organizations. And students are, I had to look at the number because students are creating new clubs all the time. All they have to have is a small group of students that are interested in also being in the same club or organization, and they can create that. So constantly adding to that list. And there are clubs and organizations everywhere from identity groups to gaming groups to interest groups that are connected to their majors or totally unrelated, all across the board. Lots of ways to get involved on campus.
Thank you, Brittany. And now let me ask one question that came today through the chat. And this is for David. Will the Met be open during regular hours for Thanksgiving holidays for students who stay on campus during that time? And by the way, your food gets rave reviews from my daughter, who is a vegetarian.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Thanksgiving, sorry if I wasn't clear enough. For Thanksgiving this year, we're serving only out of the portfolio. That will be the only venue that we're open for Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. But again, we'll have additional Thanksgiving meals ready for students to take if they want Wednesday night in the Met, and so they can do that. And also we'll have some breakfast options out because the Met will be closed the next morning. But the portfolio is open on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, from I believe from 11 to 1.
Thank you, David. And I did see that as well in the chat. You posted, or someone posted, some information about the Thanksgiving dining hours. So those are available for you guys to review there as well. Another question we had was for Kevin. What is the process for applying to be a residence advisor, an RA?
Sure. So the process for becoming a student leader is a common one, and it includes applications for the resident advisor, advocate for inclusion in residence, health and wellness ambassadors, orientation leaders. I think that's all of them. I might be missing one. But that process will be announced later this semester. And typically the interview process for that takes place over winter session, and selection takes place in early spring semester. So information will be coming soon. Typically, we do quite a bit of outreach to students to let them know that this is an application process that is available, and encouraging them to apply. We also reach out to students who we think would be a great candidate for one of these positions, and we'll often sort of encourage them to do so as well.
Thank you, Kevin. I have a question that just came in from Chris that is for David. When we toured the school 2 years ago, we heard students speak fondly of an event where professors made them breakfast at midnight in the studio. Does this still happen? And can we have some details?
So that was midnight breakfast. And while professors were not, I'm not supposed to say this, but professors are not making breakfast for students at midnight. But we do have a lot of faculty and staff come in to help serve. And that was an event that we have had every December for actually twice a year for years. And with COVID, we haven't brought it back just because of the crowds. But so yeah, I mean, I think that we would do it from 9 to midnight or something around there, and it was breakfast, some of the favorite breakfast items, and we set up a pretty elaborate buffet in the Met, and the students can come and get breakfast for dinner during crits.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, I have a question for Kevin. This is a winter session question. I understand that the dorms open January 3rd and winter session begins on January 6th. That said, my daughter doesn't have classes starting until January 10th. Are there reasons they need to arrive for activities before classes actually start, as we are planning our flight arrangements?
Yes, students do not need to return at a specific date for winter session. We do open on the 3rd because for many of our students, especially students coming internationally, they want a few days to acclimate to Providence and be ready before their classes begin. But if your student has classes starting later and they want to come later, that's certainly something that's fine. They will have the opportunity to indicate their arrival date through our winter intent form, which will be going out later in November to all students. And so they can let us know, when they're going to come back, but later is fine. It's not like orientation where they really need to be here for those particular events. They just want to be back and comfortable for classes to start.
Thank you, Kevin. Another question for you. What do students generally do with their stuff over the summer? Do they store it in Providence? Is there a place you recommend?
So many of our students utilize the services provided by Jones Moving and Storage. Jones is our kind of campus partner, and they are the only storage company that has the ability to come directly to the student room, pick up the stuff, and then deliver it again in the fall directly to their fall room. For other storage companies, they can meet the student on the sidewalk or ship things, but we don't coordinate access to the rooms the way we do with Jones. So that's why most students use Jones. Other options, some students will come together and rent a storage unit and get a couple students together. Some students, if they live locally, might store some things for a friend, or they'll take their own stuff home. And then for students who are departing RISD, maybe they've graduated, many of them will utilize UPS to ship things home. We do offer some services with UPS. They'll typically come to campus and coordinate some shipments of stuff as well. And then one of the things that becomes a challenge for students leaving is often their artwork. How do they do that? And UPS is helpful with that as well.
Thank you, Kevin. And I see that Elizabeth Wicks Cooper, hi, Elizabeth, did say that they have used Jones as well, and it worked very well. And I've heard that from a number of other parents too. Next question, and this is a question for Brittany. I'd love to know more about whether or not there's a common core curriculum for the freshman foundation classes. It seems that the kids are having extremely different experiences and expectations and instruction based on the teacher they have.
Well, I can answer this question from kind of an outsider that's worked with a lot of students and works closely with the faculty in the first year area. They do not have a specific curriculum they follow. The students have to take the same courses. Everybody has to take a design class. Everybody has to take a drawing class. But our faculty do have some authority to teach those classes in different ways to meet the same goals. They all have the same educational goals, and the students are expected to have the same results at the end, the same competencies at the end, but they all get there and have the freedom to get there a little bit differently.
Thank you, Brittany. I have a question for Bob. Will students have access to the flu vaccine? Where? And what is the cost?
Well, we have had two flu clinics. Actually, we've had one and we have another one tomorrow. In fact, that students can show up at Prob Wash. I don't know why I'm not highlighted, but in any case, so we do have the flu clinic. They show up Prob Wash 11:30 to 2:30 tomorrow. They can get a flu shot. That's the last flu clinic that we have scheduled for campus at this point. Most of the local pharmacies also provide flu vaccines, but the ones on campus are completely free and to the students, actually, and staff and faculty as well.
Thank you, Bob. Before I ask a couple more questions, I was wondering, did anyone want to ask their own question? If yes, do go to the reaction button at the bottom of your screen and pick a reaction you choose, and then we will highlight you. Otherwise, I will keep on asking the questions. And you can also still ask questions in the chat, but I have a few questions to ask. Okay, while you think about questions and whether you want to speak up or have me ask the questions, I'll ask another question. It's actually a statement from James Landay. a parent here who says it seems like a lot of families from the San Francisco Bay Area are on the call. If anyone is interested in some get-together on a weekend, for example, at a local museum, we get into Stanford museums for free, and it's just a chance to meet. I'd be happy to organize. You can email me and he shared his email, and I'd be glad to get a list going. Thank you so much, James. I do want to say as well that our office is planning to organize some in-person events where parents get to get together. We were not able to do that last year, and we've been a bit slow planning that because of COVID. We want to stay very safe. But James, I'd be happy to work with you on organizing your event or getting people together and sending an invitation as well. But thank you for being proactive. I appreciate it very much. There is a question from Olivia that just came in the chat. I am hearing that there is a wait for psychological services at RISD. I've also heard that kids around the nation are really struggling in this post-COVID time. I'd be interested in any thoughts or reflections you have on the topic of mental health at RISD, especially for foundation students. Bob, did you want to take that on first?
Sure. Yes, there was a lot of challenges during COVID. The first round of challenges were physical health challenges and really getting the transmission under control and the vaccinations. And then came mental health challenges. So just in general, the mental health challenges increased nationally for everyone and students as well. We currently are down staff in CAPS, and so follow-up appointments have extended out longer than we would like. We're meeting with deans and department heads next week to talk about ways in which faculty and deans can help support students and balance out some of the support that the CAPS providers sort of provide. But it is a challenge, especially first-year students. This is a very difficult period of time going into their first round of crits, end of the semester. And so I would encourage you to have contact with your student. Don't be upset if they don't have a lot of contact with you. Think of small ways of making them realize that you have confidence in them and really want to support them. Sending gifts or just little memes or just things to sort of break some of the tension. But it is a high performance time. And so we really want to encourage students to eat and sleep, but also, to contact CAPS if they're having more difficult concerns and challenges. And we will do our best to work with them.
Thank you, Bob. I know, Kevin, also some of your staff are working on providing support and services to students to help with mental health and social activities. Did you want to share more about that?
I think what I would just say is that there is a network of professionals that pay really close attention to how students are doing. And we take inventory from a number of different sources, whether that be how they're doing on the resident floors and how their RAs are sort of interacting with them, to how they're doing in the classroom, how they may be showing up in the dining hall sometimes. All these different inputs come together, and we are always kind of following and keeping track of things through our care network. And so the ways that we sort of approach that are individualized, and it depends on the circumstance and the severity. And we use a number of different metrics to determine, the proper intervention in a specific situation. But, we're really good as an institution about keeping an eye on things and keeping our students their health at the front of our mind. Within the residence halls, our focus has really been on promoting social connections and breaks from the work. And part of that is in simple things like the spaces that we've created on campus that are really focused on fun, right? So we have a community living room in Homer Hall with a Dance Revolution machine and ping pong and pool and, big TVs and pianos to play and things like that. What we don't have in that space is work. We don't have art going on. That's not a workspace, and our students know that. There are certainly plenty of spaces to do work, but we also are trying to get our students to come away and peel back from that, and to have, even if it's a half hour at the end of the day, just to sit with their friends and chill out, play a game of Uno around a table. So we've created a lot of that through the renovations that we've been doing over the last 5 years or so. We have these types of environments all over our campus, and it's a focus of ours to really kind of add some balance. We know that students come to RISD thinking that it's all going to be work, and they can certainly manifest it to be so if they want to, but it doesn't have to be. And our job is really to say to them, this is not the only thing that you need to do. You don't have to be working all the time. It's okay. Take a break, sleep. Do not overwork yourself. And that is, something that comes from us all the time. So the pop-up events, the things that we're doing are about getting students out and saying there's more to this environment than just the studio.
If I can just jump in real quick. And you did put a link to that care report that Kevin talked about in the chat. That's something you can complete. Students can complete it for other students. Students can complete it for themselves. So that is a way of saying either it's an emergency, I need you to reach out right now, or just FYI, I think this might be helpful for you to know in case something pops up in another area. So things like deaths in the family. For many students, that's never a problem. For some students, all of a sudden they stop going to class and we get a report from the faculty, or other things start happening, and it's helpful to have that context. So I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that you can fill that form out as well.
Thank you, Brittany. Brittany, can you answer as well a question as to how can first-year students find out up to date grades in their classes?
Yeah. So if your first year student is telling you that they don't know what their grade is, that's probably real. They're very used to in high school getting a grade for everything that they hand in. That's generally not the style here. They get feedback on everything they hand in, but because that feedback is usually in a critique, often they walk away feeling not as good as their grade will reflect later. We do mid-semester reports. So for students who are struggling or at risk of failing or really need to pull up their attendance or the quality of their work, they are required to get a notification from their faculty member at midterm, which was last week, maybe the week before. So they would have gotten those at this point. For first-year students, anybody who has two midterm reports is called in by the dean, and they make the list for the care team we just talked about to make sure that we're really creating an intervention plan for that student so we can help them be successful. I personally, when I talk to students, always encourage them to ask the question to their faculty. If you had to give me a grade right now, if the semester ended today, what would that look like? It's an appropriate question to ask. Most faculty are going to say, well, I don't know, we still have this, we still have that, but they're still going to give them some feedback so the student understands if they're on track or if they need to kind of pull it up a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany. One last question, and then we'll close the event. Does a student have to take at least one class in winter session?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and now I'd like to thank everyone for joining us during this event today. And I hope you felt that you got a good overview of what the RISD student experience is like at the during the beginning of the year. I do want to say a special thank you to our panelists and to our partners. I hope that as parents, you have enjoyed hearing about those opportunities and that the webinar has really helped you think about how to ask the right questions to your student as he or she is going through her artistic and academic journey. And I really encourage you to share feedback on the RISD experience with us and with your student. And we really look forward to hearing from you how you feel the webinar went, what you would like to hear from us in webinars in the future. We will be sending you a post-webinar survey. So we're really looking for your feedback there. I also hope that this session gave you a good opportunity to learn more about your students' experience while on campus. And I think for us as a team, it's been very rewarding to be able to share what the RISD experience is like from the staff perspective. If you're interested in getting more emails from us, please let us know and we'll make sure that you are receiving our family's emails and newsletters. Thank you very much for joining us tonight or this morning, depending on where you're calling from. And wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. Many, many thanks for being part of the RISD community.